Is Sikri in?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am, we are ready.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Manoj.
Good afternoon, sir.
So nice to see you, sir.
I can see everybody. No.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vidhi Madan Chadha. I work with Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies, Terry School of Advanced Studies. On behalf of Terry School of Advanced Studies and Madhyam Council for Conflict Resolution, I welcome all to this panel discussion. Today's panel discussion on the theme Emerging Trends in Mediation, Challenges and Opportunities is organized by Madhyam Council for Conflict Resolution in collaboration with Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies, Terry School of Advanced Studies. We are fortunate to have with us some of India's distinguished legal luminaries and experts on the panel today. I extend a warm welcome to all the esteemed panelists and dignitaries joining us. I request all the participants joining us at Microsoft Teams to kindly keep their microphones muted during the course of the discussion, and also for better visual and discussion experience, they can even keep their cameras switched off. Thank you. Terry School of Advanced Studies is a deemed university established under the aegis of the Energy and Resources Institute, recognized globally for its contributions to scientific and policy research in the realms of energy, environment, and sustainable development. The deemed university is one of its kind university in the country to dedicate itself to the study of environment, energy, law, policy, regulation, business sustainability, and natural sciences for sustainable development. The Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies, established at Terry School, offers postgraduate programs and doctoral programs in legal studies and focuses its research in the thematic areas structured around intersections of law and sustainable development. Madhyam, Council for Conflict Resolution, is spearheaded by India's distinguished jurists and lawyers and finest mediators. It aims to establish standards of training in mediation, conciliation, and other dispute resolution processes through best global practices in conflict resolution and peace building. Let's take a look at a short video to know more about Madhyam and their work. And any issues, Saransh?
Yes, ma'am. The latest video is not playing. I don't know why.
Abhay, kindly play the video. Abhi the audio is missing.
Webinars and training programs. It is committed towards warm greetings from Madhya, Council for Conflict Resolution. Madhya is a leading organization in the area of alternative dispute resolution, founded by highly accomplished professionals. Its members comprise of many renowned and experienced arbitrators and internationally accredited mediators. Madhya has emphasized the need to adopt and promote the best practices in ADR and capacity building. In this endeavor, Madhya seeks to collaborate and engage with ADR professionals and institutions through domestic and international conferences, webinars, and training programs. It is committed towards empowering individuals and communities to resolve their disputes using collaborative processes instead of adversarial conflicts. Thanks to the current push towards the digital space, Madhya has also initiated a web series, Madhya Matters, to engage in important dialogues that have become crucial for effective conflict resolution in the aftermath of COVID-19. With the recent spate of amendments and new legislations in the field of arbitration and mediation, Madhya has taken the lead to engage in discussions to explore the way forward for expediting arbitration and mediation processes. With the coming into force of the Singapore Convention that India also signed in August 2019, mediation has taken the center stage. Madhya looks forward to its journey in exploring the exciting space created for mediation as the preferred option for dispute resolution. Madhya is especially committed to enriching and empowering young minds through its programs for aspiring ADR professionals in various universities and colleges. This is our first collaboration with the prestigious institution Delhi School of Advanced Studies, and we look forward to this partnership getting strengthened in future. We hope you will enjoy and benefit from today's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite my Vice Chancellor, Professor Manipadma Datta, Vice Chancellor, Terry School of Advanced Studies, for his opening remarks. Datta, sir.
Thank you, Vidhi. I hope that I am audible. Am I audible fully?
Yes, Ji, you are audible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Welcome you all. It's a nice situation, and I'm glad that I'm a part of it, although in a very ritual mode. And it's that for everything there is some ritual. And being Vice Chancellor, I have to speak from nuclear physics to dispute resolution. So I have developed my abilities, phenomenally. So please, I'll be happy that if you really tolerate me for a few moments and not take much time. You see that things are changing, and change is the most static thing on earth. So automatically, the change of time, that the changing legal system, changing dispute resolution scenario is obvious. And if you follow our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, then that this dispute resolution, in the context of his own life and experience, he said that it is always uniting parties. So mediation has a very big role, because the social theory is governed by, you see, that thesis, antithesis, and ultimately synthesis. But unfortunately, in today's India, our everyday evening ritual, visual ritual is that the person who is to mediate, he rather completely on television set, the anchor plays completely different role. So we are gradually getting used to the culture that resolution is not possible. So in such a given scenario and very dismal social scenario, I think that there should be a big general awareness apart from the technicalities that we should be really very much concerned about this sort of resolution. Now you see that I am really very pleased to see that Makam is an organization which has a very rich leadership. They have really taken a very organized step, and they have combined with our colleagues. And you see that my colleagues are certainly they have really done a very great job by reaching Makam and being able to assembling a galaxy of luminaries, legal luminaries, whom I am equally respectful and equally scared of. And here I welcome all the legal luminaries, including my own colleague, respected Professor Sri Prakash, who is also a professor in Terry SAS. But what I want to say that on the lighter side, that I am equally respectful and scared of legal luminaries, because we know that if a legal person writes something, you need another legal person to understand that. So I think that we should it is on the lighter side. I hope that everybody will appreciate or at least condone me my reference to the lighter side. And people like Justice Sikri is there, and I have seen many faces which are also quite known faces to me. So in that case, I would certainly welcome you once again, and I will expect that we will have a very rich session on modes of resolution, this legal framework, and the future trends. With all my best, and thanking all of you, including the participants, and hoping for a very exciting and vibrant session ahead. Thank you very much, and namaskar. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Datta sir. Thank you so much for your encouragement and being with us today here. Once again, I request all the participants at Microsoft Teams to kindly keep their microphones muted. And all the participants joining us at this platform, Teams, and joining us live at Madhyam TV, joining us live through Teresa's Facebook page, you're all invited to post your questions in the chat. We'll be taking all the questions up at the end of the panel discussion in the Q&A session. We have with us Ms. Sadhana Ramachandran, advocate, senior mediator, senior vice president, Madhyam, and Mr. J.P. Singh, senior advocate, senior mediator, and secretary general, Madhyam, as moderators to facilitate this panel discussion. I now hand over the session to our esteemed moderators. Over to you, Sadhana ma'am, JP sir. Ma'am, kindly unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Vidhi. And we thank the Vice Chancellor for his warm welcome on behalf of Madhyam. We are indeed privileged today to have with us a very distinguished panel of speakers, all of whom have worn many hats. Justice Arjun Sikri, whom we call our resolution judge because of his pioneering leadership role in the evolution of mediation, has been a judge of the Supreme Court of India and is presently an international judge of the Singapore International Commercial Court and chairperson of the News Broadcasting Standards Authority in India. Justice Sanjeev Sachdeva, judge of the Delhi High Court, who has been an active trained mediator himself before he became a judge. We call him our e-judge because of his innovative and path-breaking initiatives in establishing effective cyber systems both in mediation and adjudication in the Delhi High Court. Mr. Amarjeet Singh Chandiok, senior advocate, a towering leader of the bar, who has in that capacity really led the mediation movement from the start. He has been additional Solicitor General of India, several times President of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, Counsel for the European Union, and President of INSOR India. We have with us Mr. Shri Prakash, Distinguished Fellow, Transport and Urban Governance at the Terry School of Advanced Studies. He has had a long career in the Indian Railways and retired as a member of the Railway Board. His rich experience has seen him specializing in diverse areas such as operations, planning, information technology. Most importantly in that regard, he has been instrumental in improving the tendering process in government departments to avoid disputes. Thank you to all our panelists for giving us this honor today.
Justice Sikri, am I clear, Justice Sikri? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear. Very clear.
Justice Sikri, I would like to begin with you. You've held several eminent positions in the Indian judicial system, and now you also serve as an international judge in the Singapore International Commercial Court. Your passion for promoting mediation as an ADR process is well known. After the Singapore Convention, which was signed by 45 countries, including India, we were looking at a transformative change on how the world would look at mediation, and then came the pandemic. The convention comes into effect in September 2020. The question to you, Justice Sikri, in view of the new normal, if a statutory backup comes by way of promulgation of an ordinance by the President of India, giving reference to the said convention, would that mean India has ratified the convention, or would that require yet to undergo the procedure of ratification?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question, Mr. JP Singh, and good afternoon to all the panelists and the audience who are here today in this webinar. As webinars are new normal instead of seminars and conferences now. Before actually coming to the question and answering that, let me tell, maybe for the benefit of the audience as well, as to what this Singapore Convention is on mediation, and without taking much time on that, and therefore what is the significance thereof, and what is the way forward, and how we can pull it out insofar as India is concerned. You see, first of all, you know that the traditional methods of resolving the dispute are courts. We talk of alternate dispute resolution system. Yes, initially it was thought that it is to, at least in the context, that it is to lessen the burden of the judiciary, because it has overburdened. But I would say, and now over a period of time, it is realized, and Madhyam is a superb example thereof, that mediation in many circumstances may be a better way of doing justice in the matter, where we all come with the win-win situation. And as compared to adversarial system, whether it is arbitration or it is court system, we know when the two sides take their position and the court has to adjudicate or the arbitrator has to adjudicate, it's only one way where the matter would go on, either a party succeeds or a party loses, etc. But in mediation, there are so many different ways by which and innovative ways which can be found, which are acceptable to both the parties and on which both the parties can settle. Now, why I have said so, it becomes very, very important when we talk of commercial disputes. And particularly in the, then I'll transcend it to international commercial disputes. Because in commercial disputes, we have seen, and mostly that the parties they may want their relationship to go on, whatever relationship in which they are, but the disputes have arisen, so therefore they want the disputes to be settled also as early as possible, and it should not affect their relationship, whether it is commercial relationship or other relationship. So in this context, that was one reason because of which arbitration in commercial matters and particularly international commercial matters became more important because of its speed, cost, and confidentiality, party autonomy, and all those aspects which are there. But what I'm trying to say is, over a period of time, it was thought, and it has been the experience of even international arbitration community that there are still some lacunae or some disadvantages of arbitration. It may have been perceived as very speedy, but many times it doesn't turn out to be that speedy. In no case it is cost effective, which is one of the the attributes of the arbitration. Today we know prohibited cost of arbitrations. So therefore, what I'm trying to highlight here is that even the international mediation, this arbitration community has realized it. So whether it is LCIA, whether it is SIAC, whether it is ICC, or any other such organization, they have incorporated the mechanism of mediation into their arbitration. So they may primarily remain as, and therefore their rules have been amended of late, and they want, if the parties want to go for mediation, they may go for mediation, or they have come out with the hybrid system of med are med or are med are. So this is the significance of mediation even in international commercial disputes. And another thing which is very, and we know in bilateral investment treaties, etc., ICSID is one body which normally decides these disputes, where the if they are the parties are the members, and there, because of some of the decisions, it is not the time to go into those decisions, and the kind of outburst which they incurred or they invited. The ICSID also amended the rules, and there is almost in the compulsory form of mediation, it is there that you first. So that is the relevance of mediation in international community. Now, question that comes is that when it is in under these, whether it is mediation is conducted by any of these institutions, or it may be privately, the two parties who were who had disputes, they have gone to a mediator. It is, we are talking of pre-litigation situation, and therefore, and I'm talking of international disputes. Because the Singapore treaty is or the convention is in, it takes care of that only. So therefore, it is realized that this mediation may be there, but then how to enforce it? Insofar as arbitration is concerned, we have New York Convention, etc., and which are given the that New York Convention, and but which is statutorily recognized. It was immediately after that we had the legislation there. Now it is a part of Arbitration and Conciliation Act itself. So therefore, now here the question comes, and another thing which is very important is that when we are in the era of globalization, and where such disputes of international ramification and commercial disputes arise, we want uniformity of laws all over. And that is why UNCITRAL comes forward with model laws, which Arbitration and Conciliation Act and is enacted on the basis of that model law. So this is at the suggestion of, again, UNCITRAL, that this model, that International Commercial Mediation and International Settlement Agreement, which has been signed on that basis, and the Singapore Convention, which was signed and which will come into effect in 2020. So therefore, my first, although you asked me that question, but I wanted to give these introductory remarks, that how important, and because that is what I wanted to come at. That how important is Singapore Convention for all the countries. Its importance has been realized by India. So therefore, India is the one of the first countries who signed this settlement. 45 countries who signed. India was also one of the countries who signed that. So that is a very good and very important step which has been taken. But now the question is whether simply, signing that treaty, it is an international convention, whether that binds or whether that has a force of law insofar as implementation thereof within India is concerned. Now, on the one hand, now here the law is very clear. We have in the Constitution Article 253. Now, Article 253 of the Constitution says that because that whenever international treaties are signed, normally in various countries there are two systems of enforcement of international treaties where they become the signatory within their own countries. Either there has to be a domestic law to be enacted even after signing, and or the other situation is that, and that depends on the law of that particular country, that the moment it is signed, it becomes effective in that country. US is example of this. But as I said, insofar as India is concerned, merely signing of the international treaty doesn't make it ipso facto enforceable and makes it law within the country. So to enforce it. So therefore law is required. That is what Article 253 says. So we have chosen this route. And therefore Parliament has to pass law on this basis. So first I said that how much important it is, and therefore Parliament has to act. Now problem has arisen because of COVID, as you have rightly said, that immediately it happened, and so therefore we don't have any sessions as far as Parliament is concerned. But then under our constitution there is another route, which is the promulgation of ordinances by the President. Now this is the and that is the question which you have put to me. And of course, whenever the Parliament or the legislature is not in session, and something which is required, which is very urgently required, so therefore it can be ordinance can be issued by the President, and that becomes a law till that time, and it has its limited, for limited period, its enforceability, and within that period, it has to be, say, 6 months or so. Within that period, it has to be ratified by the Parliament in the form of law, otherwise it lapses. So therefore, when it is not there, what I feel is, and this coupled with Article 73 of the Constitution, which very clearly says that the executive power of the Union is same as the power of the Parliament and legislature. So therefore, in seventh schedule of the Constitution, where we have three lists on which the legislatures can make laws. List 1 enumerates the subjects, 97 subjects on which Parliament has the power to make the law. List 2 are the subjects on which state has legislatures have the power to make the law, and list 3 is concurrent list. So we are not concerned with list 2 and list 3. It directly comes international treaties also. It comes this entry 14 and entry 6 of list 1. They mention about this treaty. So this power is with the Parliament. And so therefore, but the Article 73 says executive has the same power as the Parliament had. So therefore, and it has been interpreted by the Supreme Court that on a particular subject, when there is no law, the executive can, still act within its executive powers, because these are the same as Parliament. But as Article 253 on the other hand says that for insofar as this convention is concerned, we need a law for making it. So therefore, ordinance, according to me, may be one good example in these circumstances. And the government should realize in September it is coming to into force, this treaty. It is so important for India for 2-3 reasons, if I may say summarily, but other speakers will also, on panelists will also throw light on that. Number one, we are trying, we may have become very good over a period of time insofar as domestic mediation is concerned. But international mediation, we have not even thought of it. insofar as international arbitration is concerned, we are struggling to have our institution in India. And in 2019, even the act was passed by the parliament that New Delhi, this arbitration, this the act, etc., with that big name which is it is given. So, but although nothing has been implemented so far towards that end, but the mediation is recognized in various statutes now, apart from Section 89 when we are talking of commercial court act itself recognizes. So therefore, it would be, we should not lose this opportunity. And they, I would say, yes, the government should come out with such.
Thank you, Justice Sikri. Sadhana. Sadhana, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was just thanking Justice Sikri for his comprehensive illumination of the Singapore Convention and the Indian Constitution and their interplay and reference to the new law. Sir, we have so many exciting ideas from you, but our mandate is we must get the best and as much as possible from you and the other panelists. So I'll just go on to Justice Sachdeva for the moment, and perhaps if there's time, come back to you, because what you have said has made mediation really illuminated how dynamic mediation as an idea is. Now, Justice Sachdeva, I'd like to ask you, sir, you have been a mediator yourself, and a little getting you back, getting the panelists and all of us back to the daily nitty-gritty of mediation from the Singapore Convention. And what I'd like to ask you is that some of the problems we may face in the new normal in mediation is that we all know confidentiality is the backbone of the mediation process. And disputants therefore like it because it gives them complete privacy in terms of sharing of the information or even expressing their emotions, etc. Now, in this new normal, where they have to participate in mediation online, sir, how do you think their fears can be addressed, or there not being complete confidentiality? And then how can the mediator ensure confidentiality of the mediation process in relation especially to online mediation?
Good afternoon, Justice Sikri. Sadhana, like you just said, there is now a new normal. This new normal has thrown up several challenges for all of us, and I found this to be rather an opportunity for the mediators and for the lawyers to convince parties to now come into mediation. Because we've seen in the last 6 months, about 4 months, the normal courts have not functioned. Criminal litigation, and we have observed it that criminal litigation is happening because for a criminal or for an accused or a complainant, there is no option but to go to court. Civil litigation seems to have taken a backseat because everybody is feeling that in this situation, when the courts are not functioning, let us not go into civil disputes, let us not spend more money. But what do you do with cases which are already pending in courts? So this, I had earlier said also in one of the sessions that it's a time of introspection for the lawyers. Why don't you pick up all your files, look at the cases where you feel the disputes are genuine disputes, where it is not an ego clash and parties may be today willing to explore the possibility of alternative dispute resolution for resolving their disputes. So this is really an opportunity where we can shift the focus from the courts to alternative dispute resolutions like mediation. And everybody today would be amenable to look at a win-win situation. Because another thing which comes to mind is that mediation is the only avenue whereby both parties can go back happy. Sometimes there are disputes in court, we feel, where parties genuinely feel, both of them genuinely feel they are correct. As a judge, one will decide in accordance with law. As an arbitrator, one will strictly decide in accordance with law. But mediator and mediation process is the only process whereby you can think out of the box and come up with a solution where both parties feel that they've won and they've gone back happy. Now, given that situation, coming to confidentiality, it's a major issue today. What do we do with confidentiality? What happens if in physical meeting, you can always ask a party to step out, and then you have a caucus session with a mediator, and whatever is discussed remains with the mediator. Let me tell you, these platforms that are there today, these webinars, we're using several mediums and platforms for interaction. Even mediation is happening. Some of them have the possibility of making one of the parties wait in the lobby. A party is connected, you ask that party, all right, I'm putting you in the lobby, where it's sort of that particular connection is put on hold. And the mediator can then have a caucus session with one of the parties, the other party is waiting, he can't hear anything, he can't see anything. So that kind of a confidentiality can happen. So technology is available. We'll only have to be aware of what kind of platform we are using, because some of these platforms do permit recording. But again, it's the host which can permit recording, or who can record or who can permit recording by a remote connection. So even now, when all of us are connected, I don't think anyone can switch on their recording systems except the hosts. So confidentiality is there, and then it increases the burden on the court. Because yes, when you talk of technology, there are possibilities that somebody may have something downloaded in his system where he can still bypass it and record something. Then it becomes sort of more responsibility of the judges to ensure that if someone wants to produce something like this in a litigation at a later point of time, that we have to strictly stick to the rules of mediation and say, sorry, whatever was discussed in mediation will not be even looked at by the court. But again, we'll have to first, yes, there are features available whereby you can maintain confidentiality. You can put somebody in the lobby. Technology is there. And there are several other issues which will come up. I don't know, probably it's one of your sessions. How do you sign a document today? How will you sign a mediation settlement? It's taken place, parties don't meet. How do you sign it? Now, the possibility is there because under the IT Act, any letter or any email exchanged confirming a particular document also amounts to an acceptance of that document. So one way a mediator could do is that once the settlement agreement is drawn up, and another facility that mediation, that these electronic platforms have, that you can share the document online and the document can be finalized in the presence of the parties there and then. Then it is converted into PDF, mailed to the parties, and a confirmation email is received by the parties. If a party sends an email attaching that document, confirming the contents of the document, then the mediator can digitally sign it. Ultimately, somebody will have to digitally sign it. If the parties have their digital signatures, there's no difficulty. There can be multiple digital signatures on a document, parties can do it. Otherwise, you can have an email confirming the document from the registered email address. And if it is a court-referred mediation, it can immediately be placed before court. And before court, of course, the parties will be joined through VC. The court can, once the court gives its seal of approval, then that's a final and binding mediation settlement. There are several challenges, but there are several opportunities also. Now, for example, today I'm not at my house. I'm not even in my office. I had to go somewhere very important. So there were two options. Either I had to go back home or connect from a remote location through my laptop. And that's what I'm doing. So this is an opportunity that the mediators will have now in the future. And parties, of course, because we all know that parties for physical mediation used to travel take a leave, because we've had that several times. Parties would say, look, I've taken half-day leave, I've taken full-day leave. So they save a lot of travel time, they save a lot of waiting time, and they can connect at that moment there and then, and you can have an effective mediation. But yes, it will still take some time for us to adjust to virtual presence vis-a-vis physical presence. But last 4 months, we were forced to move on. We have moved on, and I'm sure in the future, probably parties will come and say, look, we don't want to physically come, let's have an online mediation only. So maybe that's the future we are looking at. Thank you. Over to you, Sadhana.
Thank you so much, sir.
May I give one information here?
Yes.
Like I share, I'll take few seconds. Of course, as well as Justice Sachdeva, nobody can beat him in technology, and he is the strongest pillar of our Delhi High Court insofar as that is concerned. I just wanted to share, we are doing many arbitrations now, and there are few, this technology, what you are saying, that suppose it's a panel of 3 arbitrators. Now we 3 arbitrators are at 3 different places. Likewise, parties are also at their own different places. But if we 3 want to discuss, sometimes when you sit in the court and you sit as arbitrators together, sometimes you have to discuss. So in this system, they have said, they have made rooms, virtual rooms. So one room is where the hearing is taking place. Other room, they call it for arbitrators. So we can always switch on and shift that room. And when at that time when we are conversing, nobody is able to hear. All the parties who are there, they are not able to know what is happening. So same technology can be used. That is what when the mediator wants, he can have caucus sessions in his room, which is arbitrator's room or this room. And secondly, it's only by way of information I wanted to tell you. Now, because of this COVID situation, as far as ODR is concerned, it is, given a very, very serious thought. ODR, that online dispute resolution, whether it is court, whether it is arbitration, whether it is mediation. And the NITI Aayog is going into it. It had conference conducted, closed door conference where 30-40 people participated about 1.5 months ago. And of course, with the participation of the sitting judges, and Justice Kaul was also there as chairman of the MCPC. And I was specially invited because I have retired now, but I was also invited there. And now they have constituted a committee just 4 days ago to go into the entire scheme of ODR, how the judicial reforms can be there, how there can be reforms in pre-litigation mediation, etc. And I may say so for, to share this information with all. This on 14th July, it was constituted, and I have been made a chairman of that committee. So this is one of the issues which will come up, and we are going to go in a long way. And I will be seeking the help of all of you insofar when it comes to mediation, because it is my heart and my soul is always with Bhagat. Thank you. I just wanted to share this. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Justice Sikri, and they could not have done better than to have appointed Mr. if I may say so, because that makes it even more exciting for us to look at the future. And Justice Sachdeva and Justice Sikri, thank you again for your hands-on problem-solving responses that you have given us. Justice Sachdeva spoke about how there are new opportunities along with the challenge. So, Justice Sikri, can I just get back to you on that, on the issue of new opportunities, with a question which is kind of filling all of our minds. Because of the Singapore Convention, we're thinking of how we could harmonize our commercial disputes, both domestic and international, in line with the principles of the Singapore Convention. So can we use, for example, the same principles of the Singapore Convention to make our domestic mediation settlements also enforceable by themselves?
Actually, one thing, it's again a very, very important question. And while answering the earlier question which was put to me by Mr. J.P. Singh, I missed only one thing, that when this, what is the method when you said of enforcing this convention. But in India, we have still one problem, that even on mediation, we have, and that becomes important as far as this question which you have put. In India, even till today, we have not come out with any law on mediation. So we lack, like arbitration, there is an Arbitration Conciliation Act, and Arbitration Act has been there for mediation. There is a need. It has been discussed at several places and on several occasions, and to take care of, because I don't have to say there in details, all people you know it. It is not only field litigation, mediation which results in settlements, and the problem of enforcement of those settlements, the absence of any statutory regime. We keep thinking of the alternative is within the regime, which is at present there, either Lok Adalats or Arbitration and Conciliation Act and all that, to take one or the other route. But we need this Mediation Act. We need Mediation Act also for the purposes of to regulate the mediators, their ethical values or ethical standards, etc. That some such issues they keep coming, and for so many other reasons. But so therefore, there is a need for that as well. And when now answering your question, we have to go like prior to 1996, when we talk of arbitration, we had two different sets of this laws. There was a separate law for enforcement of foreign awards, and there was a separate law, Arbitration Act 1940. But then in 1996, we have taken both of these into one, law. Arbitration and Conciliation Act takes care of foreign awards also now. Of course, there are debates about it, whether it should be done. So therefore, one way of doing it is that since we have lost up to now an opportunity in framing a mediation act or enacting a mediation act, why not utilize that opportunity now? And we should have a comprehensive act which takes care of domestic mediation as well as international mediation. So that would be one wonderful way of doing it. Or if that is not immediately possible, as we are talking of new normal and COVID, etc., then why not have at least as far as the mediation is concerned, now we have, now I'm talking of domestic mediation, that some of the features of the Singapore Convention, which are so good otherwise, and so when it comes to enforcement, so why not imbibe that and utilize it? But according to me, best thing would be that come out with now a comprehensive legislation covering both.
Thank you very much, Justice Sikri, for that, because and we all know it's time, we all feel it's time that India has its own mediation law, which will have its own challenges. Thank you very much for your answer, Justice Sikri.
Justice Sachdeva, we at Delhi High Court look up to you to effectively navigate the challenges thrown up by the virtual courts, both in relation to mediation and judicial dispensation. And Justice Sikri has endorsed it right now. So, please enlighten us. You already talked about how a mediated settlement can be enforced or signed. Is there a difference between a digital signature and an electronic signature? Since both these words are used in the Information and Technology Act, then how can a mediated settlement be signed online by multiple parties? And what are the challenges before the mediator or the mediation service provider with respect to the same?
You see, virtually digital signature is also an electronic signature, which you put electronically on a document. But sometimes you have the digital pen whereby you can digitally sign a document where your signature is visible. Otherwise, the digital signature actually comes with a private key, which you insert in your laptop or a computer, and then you can digitally sign. But then there is a major challenge, and this is what I've been bringing up in several sessions, that most of us don't save that private key. You see, if you are shown your physical signature, say after 20 years, you'll still be able to identify, yes, this is how I used to sign 20 years ago and this is my signature. But digital signature is actually a 256 encrypted key. It's a 256 characters, and any comma, full stop change or any special character changes the digital signature. If I were to show you your digital signatures the very next day, you will not be able to identify whether it's yours or not. And a surprising thing which I've been always bringing up with the administration is when you apply for a digital signature, you only need to give your email address. And our email addresses are known to everybody. And when a digital signature is issued, no email is sent on that email address that a digital signature has been issued in your name. Now recently they've started sending an SMS and sending an email confirming that yes, some digital signature has been issued. Earlier it never used to happen. So one word of caution, please save your digital signatures at all point of time. That key that comes, because that's the only factor by which you can identify whether it's your signature or not. Now, insofar as multiple signing of documents is concerned, there are various softwares which are available. Now, some of them are paid software whereby multiple people can affix their signatures on a document. But insofar as simultaneously signing is concerned, that may not be possible because everybody will have their own copy. So one PDF document, A, supposing it's signed by A signs it and forwards it to B. Then B signs it, B can forward it to C and to D and so on. So you can have your digital signatures. Now there are softwares like Adobe Acrobat. It also creates a signature. If you want to put in your signature and you don't have an actual digital signature card from one of the service providers, Adobe also provides a feature whereby you can fix your digital signature. But that is not today recognized by the government because there is no authority actually issuing it. So you will have to have a digital signature, and it's not very expensive. We all know that it's a matter of now 2 days or 3 days that you get your digital signature. So moment a party comes for mediation, you can insist upon them that please obtain a digital signature card and retain it. So when it is to be signed, it can be very easily signed simultaneously by all parties and then sent over email. Alternatively, like I had suggested earlier, instead of digital signing it, they can email from the recognized email address confirming it. Now, as a mediator, ultimately it will be your responsibility to ensure, because we have to then ensure tomorrow if one party wants to back out of that agreement, which sometimes, though it should not, but sometimes does happen, then at least there is some proof with the mediation center that this was a confirmed document which was sent from that party. In court-referred mediation, it's very easy because immediately the matter can get listed before the court and the court gives its approval on the document. So that safeguard can happen on a digitally signed document. There shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you so much, Justice Sadeva. Because this is an issue which has been faced by us so many times. So I thought I'll put it to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I move to Mr. Chandiok now? Sir, you have led this, as I said earlier, our mediation movement from the front on behalf of the bar, sir. And we just got the secret response on what if the principles of the Singapore Convention are used, and we have a system by which mediation settlement agreements can be enforced by themselves. Sir, what would in such a situation be the challenges for the bar, who are mediators and who are also counsel appearing before the mediators?
Thank you, Sadhna. In fact, you've already got an answer on this so far as signatures or the challenges before the bar are concerned, because Sadeva has already given us a lead. One is that we may ask parties to send email confirming the other digital signatures. Now, the challenges before the bar, right from the time that we started mediation, have been challenging. There's no doubt, but we have come a long way already, but we're still a long way to go also. I think the time has come, as Justice Sikri has rightly pointed out, that we need to ensure that we don't rely upon Part 3 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. Mediation settlements, once digitally signed or email confirmation, as the case may be, should be enforced as a decree of a civil court. And now that the mediation is taking over various facets in almost all economic laws, in Companies Act, now we have brought a tax situation where we are looking at mediation also. Time has come where all lawyers, mediators in particular, will have to ensure that the email address is of the person who is sending you that confirmation. One, because it must come from a normal email bar. He must take precautions now. The greatest challenge that for a mediator today is to see that he is able to, despite the virtual situation, not making physically meeting people, you are able to empower the parties to come to a settlement. Now, once you bring them to a settlement, the second challenge, I think the foremost challenge to my mind now today is one is to meet this new demand, new normal that we have started looking at, because virtual courts are there, some experiences coming at our hand. And almost all tribunals today are virtual today, but the NCLT, everything else is virtual today. In fact, income tax tribunal has become also virtual for that matter. What we are looking at today is this settlement agreement writing becomes extremely important. Therefore, your domain knowledge becomes extremely important, though fundamentally, I'm not keeping that one should be an expert, but a bar must know that knowledge of basic law or fundamentals of law in which the dispute is covered, the ambit of the dispute. And second is art of drafting a settlement agreement. Because if the settlement agreement is going to take the shape of a decree of a court, then we must give that standard back to the judicial system by lawyers or the mediators that the mediated settlements are totally foolproof. You must look at your recitals, look at covenants, look at who has to operate, and don't leave any stone unturned when you're writing a mediation settlement. Because these precautions are the opportunities, no doubt about it. They are also challenges for the bar. Because our experience for the past few years on mediation has been, though we have done well so far as mediation process is concerned, even in pre-mediation process, but our experience in settlement writing has not been very happy. Therefore, we need to train people. We need to train both lawyers as well as the mediators to ensure that mediation settlements which the parties agree to settle and agree with each other must be foolproof, must be of such standards that meet the requirement of a judgment or a decree of a court. Because here, as Justice Deva rightly said, there will be some time that these settlements are challenged. Therefore, we must make finality to this settlement, and finality must, because we do not know, this settlement may be in dispute today, it may be something in dispute tomorrow after somebody passes away, legal representatives, or somebody claiming through it. Therefore, a precaution, Justice Deva has already said, we must maintain our digital signatures. Two is, the settlement writing must be so expressive, should be so minute, that there are no chances of the executing court not able to execute it for one reason or the other.
Thank you so much, sir, for those very important thoughts, both on domain knowledge as well as the quality of drafting. I hope our mediators are all queued in and are listening.
Mr. JP Singh, you are unmuted. You unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I just did. Sorry. Mr. Shiv Prakash, may I just come to you now? You've had a very impressive innings with the railways, spanning over 37 years. Your association with Terry School of Advanced Studies goes back to 2003-2004 as a visiting senior fellow. Now, in the railways, in your career in the railways, you have been instrumental in improving the tendering process in the government departments to avoid disputes. Now, please educate us as to how you achieved this goal and what innovative practices were adopted.
Thank you very much, Mr. JP Singh. But there is also a disclaimer here that I don't take any credit that whatever we have done there, because after all, I was a part of the government, and you see that a lot of changes have taken place. There is no doubt about it from the earlier times. You know that earlier times when say about when I joined railways about say 50 years back. At that time, you know that tendering process, our tender documents itself were not very well defined. And at that time, you know that the main objective was to get the works executed. And a lot of discretionary powers were available with the executing agencies and executive powers, that okay, that if something is not mentioned even the contract, then some kind of the compensation can be arranged or can be there, etc. So all these things were used to happen. And in railways, in the emergency situations, particularly in the case of the accidents, the tenders were awarded just on the nomination basis, because the rehabilitation and then restoration was much more important than this. But the gradually the things have started improving. A lot of the changes have been brought to the tender documents, and that is all, because of this the cases where the some kind of the impropriety was noticed, and then you see that it was rather difficult to do that. In fact, I have managed a couple of projects as a CEO, and I, in fact, at that time also I used some discretion, which can be said that okay, it was not, but you see, it was in the interest of the work. I was able to get the approval of the government also, which I think is not possible at all. So that now the tender document is interpreted very, very I mean, in not only in the spirit but also in the letter. So that but still, a lot of things has to be done, because there is always a fear, that of reprisal, that if not in the service, at least even after the service also, you can be questioned for something which you have done. And that is why nobody wants to use the discretion now. Even the powers are there, the emergency powers are there. And one example is that at certain level, at a high level, that the technical officers can also issue the proprietary certificates, where that you can say, okay, this is the product which we really need. But now hardly anybody gives the proprietary certificate, and then there are always some positive points as well as negative points. And that gradually we have also started adopting the international practices, the best practices there in the, and earlier, that our tender documents used to be heavily looked in the favor of the government, because the risk-taking appetite for the government is not at all there. And then it was against the private players. But now the things are improving, and then one tries to give some kind of a balanced document, and various standards, like say the which have been, and they are being customized and they are adopted in the Indian conditions also. But at the same time, that there is a very disturbing trend, and normally, no one wants that we go for arbitration or even mediation, because the executing agency is very keen to complete the execution in time, and secondly, even the agency which is executing the work, they also do not want, they want to get paid and then walk away after the completion of the project. But the disturbing trend is that the cases of the arbitration have gone up. The mediation, reconciliation was also tried, but the success rate I find is only 5%, not much. So that could be, that because it is not legally binding on the parties, and maybe that there is still certain deficiencies the way we mediate. I agree, that if we are able to mediate, we have not to go far with the arbitration, then it would be much better. One more thing which I would like to mention is that the environment in which we work, that is the managers and top managers also, it is some kind of a, that distrust, and If we are able to, that now the lot of attempts are being made that, okay, no questions will be asked if it is done in the without any self-interest, or unless if you have not gained anything from there is no personal gain, then at least will be not touched and will not be asked the questions. But still, it will take some time to percolate this among the bureaucracy, because I still find that people are as fearful, if not more, than before. So this is one, that which gradually the government will have to convince that, okay, this we will support you, not we will rather try to punish you, for something, some wrong was committed, in your career. Because personally, in fact, when I look back, and then I also find that, yes, I should not have done this. But at that time, I thought that is important. I should have. It was at least in the interest of the work. All these things, the problems are there, but of course, we'll try to find out the solutions also, because after all, the country has to progress, and then we have to become the part of the progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sri Prakash. Yes, I have found that most of the officers are scared before they are going to retire. They will get a memo, and probably this is the reason why mediation, as you said, dismally low. The success rate is very dismally low. Well, let me come back to Mr. Chandyok. Sir, you have said that domain knowledge is required, and skills in drafting are required. But if you remember, senior members of the bar have even shunned technology. So much so that when you were the president of the bar, we organized a camp to actually educate lawyers in use of technology. Now, with these times that have, the new challenges that have been thrown up, as physical appearance in courts is completely ruled out, now as a prominent senior member of the bar, please tell us, do we have the necessary infrastructure, so far as lawyers are concerned, to meet the challenges of online dispute resolution? And how do we reach out to the disputants who do not have basic facilities or hardware? And in any event, how to make them aware that there is something like an online dispute resolution system?
JP, you're right that we probably, what we call ourselves seniors by age, we should have learned these lessons earlier and probably did not foresee how technology was taking over our lives. But God has given us this opportunity from March this year to learn this. And I think this opportunity, whether I'm a senior or not a senior, is important for us to have seen and learned whatever one could do so in this process. Therefore, notwithstanding that many of us thought that physical appearance and not necessary to have e-courts, or whether we should have paperless courts at that time, were opposed. But then every action that we take towards something good, there has always been some situation, some people who will always oppose it. But the fact remains is today that our infrastructure is lacking. Though I 100% agree and bow down to what Justice Sikri said, there's imperative to bring a law on mediation. But I would suggest that the government must also at the same time show its eagerness. Not only government, I think all stakeholders in mediation should show their eagerness today to ensure that the infrastructure is in place. We must have technology available to us. Let's see, we find even during sometimes in court hearing, we are not able to, in fact, yesterday at the Supreme Court, the whole thing went off for about half an hour and we were restored back. So therefore the question is that we need to bring a system. This technology will have some problems which will overcome over a period of time. But we have to understand that this is the new normal. We'll have to adopt it. We'll have to learn it. We'll have to live with it and adopt. Maybe I think the greatest talent in this country is that we are able to adopt ourselves very faster than circumstances permit us. But we need this infrastructure. We need infrastructure. In fact, I must place it on record that the technology is not available to a common lawyer. So bar is not constituted by JP Singh or Dr. Singhvi or ABC. Bar is constituted by that youngster or even that senior member of the bar who is not able to afford a laptop or is not able to have technology available to him. So how do I make him aware of it? Therefore, awareness programs are also required at the hands of the bar leaders and the bar associations. And maybe I think Madhyam will have to take one itself to reach out to people where your technology is not available, that what alternatives can it provide to people so that people who have disputes in remote areas are able to reach you online, because that seems the only way out to live with this virus that we are saying. In fact, today's report tells us the virus will come back to this country. I don't know where it has gone so far. It says it will come back to this country in November, but I don't know where it has gone so far. It is still there. Every day we are increasing in numbers. Therefore, if we have to live with this virus till the vaccine comes in, which I think everybody feels 12 months and 18 months hope, therefore we can't put the system to a standstill. Our economy is already going down. We need to look at that. And the lawyers are the greatest stakeholders. In fact, it's unfortunate that we find youngsters getting into, some other system of suicides, etc., because they're not able to meet the demand. This is the time when people like me, who have otherwise no stake, should actually offer their services to these youngsters. Go back to these youngsters, and I said that in the last webinar, that time is to reform myself also to see if in a given case I find 2 matters can be resolved out of 4, I must offer that to the other side and resolve those matters. I must resolve it within the 2 councils. But as Mr. Shri Prakash was saying, government is little reluctant. Government is reluctant, there's no doubt. And we found a way out many times that we made a statement in the court before Justice Sikri or Justice Hadeva and said, please don't record that statement, pass that order. Therefore, this was another way to bring government into play, because it's difficult, because as long as you have NIA and CBI offices running, you will have probably government servant thinking fair. But we must bring that confidence back into the government system to see, as long as the decision is bona fide, as long as there's no mala fide, as long as there's no underlying situation of that officer, we must protect him. Though there is a protection now granted to some forces, some law has come even with respect to medical doctors and medical paramedics, but we need to bring that, and that also is equally applicable to a mediator. I think the law, whenever it is brought, must ensure that it brings protection to the mediator, that as long as he has done something in the interest of the parties, it has felicitated parties to come back together and had no interest of his own, because disclosure by mediator will also be an equally important feature in the times to come, because the conflict is coming so much today. We saw that it was there in the Arbitration Act, but we brought it specifically by Schedule 7 now and Schedule 5. Therefore, I think whenever that law comes, it must look at that responsibility and mandate fundamental principle of law. If there is a conflict by a mediator, he must disclose that to the parties. And speaking for myself, I would feel once there is a conflict, the mediator must recuse himself. Unless it is something to do with families or something where an elder has come in or some mediator has come in whose faith is utmost with those 2 parties, notwithstanding his conflict, then I think it may be possible for parties to make out. But infrastructure in our courts, infrastructure in the mediation centers, and Justice Sadeva said there are so many platforms today available. But unfortunate part is, my lord, that there are so many platforms where we do not know who is actually mediating. And I must give you an experience before all of you, that we find just to check what was happening in an online platform, I sent a dispute. I don't know who the person was dealing with it. He was talking contrary to the first principle of the act that I was referring to. Therefore, I don't know who is on the other side. Therefore, it is necessary that we must not only regulate mediators, we must also regulate the service provider or the platforms which are going to be used online with respect to this act. We must build institutions like Advanced Studies of Terry, where we must bring mediation as a course, and we must bring mediation as a profession now. Time has come that we must bring mediation as a profession, not a part-time situation when I do mediation after I finish my court work. Therefore, all these instances are part of the infrastructure. Therefore, I need to educate my youngsters, I need to educate my elders, I must bring awareness to people how they can reach out to me with aid of technology or without the aid of technology. There could be possibilities. You can have half or some portion in virtual, some portion maybe physical if times permits or in days to come, and then build up that confidence in the government disputes, in the public sector disputes, because 60-70% of litigation in this country is by the government or the public sector. But if we bring them within the purview of mediation, then I think we have achieved what world will look at us of resolution, and there could be no better opportunity than this when I have two honorable judges with us who would lead us to tell us how to resolve and how to resolve us online also. I think, but the infrastructure, both in terms of learning, infrastructure both in terms of software, hardware, and awareness, all three are required once we bring the enactment into it. And our experience shows we never look at who is going to, we start looking at implementation thereafter. Our experience is not that bad in IBC, but that's one example because all stakeholders came together. And in fact, with mediation now coming in IBC, mediation now coming in the Companies Act, in all economic laws, it's time that we must know the domain knowledge before we take up a mediator. Mediator takes up a case for mediation.
Sadhna, I think you're muted.
No, I'm not muted, JC.
Go ahead.
I'm not. Thank you so much, Mr. Chandok, for so much food for thought for all of us on several aspects, whether it is physical infrastructure or, let me put it, ethical infrastructure. There's so much to learn from your ideas. Now we have a lot of questions coming up for all the panelists, each one of them specifically. But before we go there, I was just thinking if I can put in a quick question to Mr. Sri Prakash, because as a Madhyam, as an organization, we look to the young people, to our students, to our young citizens for carrying on movements of conflict resolution. Now, sir, your students would obviously be using virtual education platform in the pandemic. Just to ask you a very short question, how have they been responding? How have they responded to virtual classroom situations?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sadhana. Basically, this after the 15th of March, I guess, or maybe earlier, that the classes were suspended, and then we went on the online platform. And what I have understood is, and I found also that the response was quite increasing, because I taught almost the half of the course to the LLM students, and some of them are here also. So but what I found is that in any case, this attendance was 100%. Because they were at their residences and from there they spoke. And secondly, that yes, there were some limitations, at least in few cases where the internet is not functional, or internet is not functional at that particular time when you are taking a class. But what we did was that we solved this problem by giving the recorded lectures to them, and anybody could be given the recorded lectures also. And what I find, it was my pleasant surprise to me, that what I found is that they are investing much more their time in the studies than, because they were coming and going, even commuting takes a lot of time, so that, and then they had all the time to at their places to devote to the study. But the performance has been pretty good, and in fact, the online, the way we conducted the evaluation process, and that was, in fact, we asked them to, we just wanted to test that whether they have understood the basic concepts of the topic, and I found that it was pretty good, So this, so I think this, apart from the infrastructure limitations, my experience has been pretty good in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sri Prakash. That's very encouraging for us, and hopefully we can have perhaps a course in addition to one in mediation, but also one in conflict resolution in universities as prestigious as yours, so our young people can really take the message of peace and harmony and brotherhood forward. Thank you so much, sir.
Uh, can we just to see? I mean, actually, we wanted to take more questions we had from the panelists, but the participants have some questions which are equally important. So I thought instead of our questions, we'll go back to the questions raised by the participants. Justice Sikri, there's a question from Swati to you, that mediation as an effective mode of dispute resolution has been well recognized in Western jurisdictions. But she feels in India, there is not unconditional acceptance amongst the business community. Is that so?
Actually, I tell you, because this is information for the person who has asked the question or audience as well as panelists are concerned and you two moderators are concerned, you know it so well. Now, when mediation started in 2002, Section 89 was inserted in CPC. In 2000 was the first, this pilot project which was started in Tisarari. And what was the reaction of the bar at that time? Because the entire bar throughout the country was opposed to mediation. Now I am intentionally talking about the lawyers who are the backbone of mediation, and without whom mediation cannot proceed. So the way we all know, the way it was rejected, so to say in inverted commas, by the advocates community, Bar Council of India also. And without going into details, what is the position today insofar as lawyers community is concerned? It is so well accepted. And I think this is one thing I've seen, which Mr. Chandok has also said, that in 15 years, from the 2005 and to the 2020, we have come a long, long way. And we have the teams, we have those mediators like you people who are so committed to the cause. They don't treat it as a particular, say, facet of mediation practice, or one has to earn from it. Of course, it's another facet of practice as well, and the lawyers can earn from it, whether he is mediator or she is mediator, or they are the advocates appearing before the mediator. But apart from that, because of the advantages of mediation, which are too many, and as I said in one sentence earlier, that in so many situations it becomes a better way of access to justice. So therefore, when this is one, what is the lawyers have accepted, and it is because of the awareness which was generated, and lawyers. So now coming to the question which is put, and that was related with the commercial world. What I feel is, from my little experience, and now I am also in a way like you doing mediation actively. That I've done in last 1 year 5 or 6, I think 5 or 6 mediation, out of which 2 I could succeed, or 4 or 5 I have succeeded also. Now, and all these mediation except 1 or 2 were commercial cases, and I find that those who are becoming aware, that community or that section of the commercial world, they feel and they have come to realize the importance of mediation. They have come to realize the advantages of mediation even over arbitration. And I tell you one very interesting example which came, it was a mediation referred to me by the High Court, and which was a dispute pending for last almost 20 years. What had happened, one of the parties had taken to ICC a particular dispute, and the other party had filed a suit anti-injunction suit in Delhi High Court where injunction was granted. So proceeding could not take place, arbitration proceeding could not take place. But and it happened in 2001 or 2, and in 2018, finally that case was decided and the suit was dismissed. So thereafter, arbitration was to go on now in ICC, but the losing party again filed an appeal, and in appeal the matter came to me that for mediation. Because much has, I mean, water had flown insofar as because it was commercial matter, so insofar the commercial transactions etc. were concerned, and so in this mediation, I could settle 80% of the dispute, maybe 90% of the disputes between the two parties got settled. Now, 10 or 15% which remained, the question was if it is not settled, good thing was the party said yes, whatever is settled, we will record that, not that because of this the entire settlement fails. So I persuaded them, they recorded that settlement. Now for that 10-15%, they said why we should, and the parties volunteered, why we should go to ICC for this. Why not? And because initially the ICC arbitration clause was that because there were some foreign parties also, initially in 2002 and agreement. But over a period of time, one of the Indian parties had bought over all the states of the foreign parties. So therefore, this was now remained between two Indian parties. They said that, look, you have understood the disputes. These 2 or 3 issues which remain, we are in this agreement itself, we are now containing one paragraph for arbitration, superseding ICC, and we are appointing you as the arbitrator to decide now these 3 aspects. And it is very interesting. So, well, mediation, and I have this happened 4 or 5 months ago, and last week I have given an award also on those 3 issues. So, therefore, the commercial community is also understanding. So, what is needed is that we have to create an awareness. As I said in the beginning, the commercial community wants the resolution of their disputes as speedily as possible, and they want that their the commercial dealings which they are going on and many projects etc., and particularly in the context of international disputes where suppose some collaboration is there between and the collaborative efforts of the project is still going on, they don't want that to be shelved. But in the meantime, the disputes which have arisen, they want that to be solved. And they want confidentiality. In the process, they need confidentiality, they don't want. So all these aspects, as I said, for which arbitration is encouraged, the advantages are more in mediation. That the mediation meets them. So therefore, once the awareness is there, I think commercial world will soon accept it wholeheartedly. But what I feel is it's already, large part of the community has been accepting
it. JP, may I just add something, supplement to this in terms of increasing awareness? You see, we are all today aware in the last 4 months, I don't know how many videos we've received on social media on pandemic, on COVID-19. And we are now well aware of the power of this social media. And let me tell you, it percolates down to the very last person, because everybody today has a cell phone and everybody has an internet connection. Virtually everybody, I'd say if not 100%, about 90% people have that. So my suggestion is make a small video, an interesting video, and put it on social media and see the effect. It will percolate down to the very last common man also that yes, there is this facility available which is cost effective, time effective and cheaper for me. And in terms of using technology, this is what I've been suggesting to others also, that now that we are into virtual courts, why don't you, instead of giving your written submission, make a 10-minute video presentation of your arguments and upload it with your paper file, with your digital file, for the court to see.
This is the advantage of a technical person.
You need to add that good persons may have an advantage over a bad looking block.
There are 2 very important questions for Justice Sachdeva, and sir, I'll take them together. And the first is from Abhay to you, and the second one is from Dhruv Chawla. Now, Abhay says that this online dispute resolution needs a strong technical support. And in a country like India, how can we include the rural population within its ambit without enough infrastructure support to the courts? So that's one aspect. The other is Dhruv Chawla's, where he says that mediation, in his view, has not really succeeded in the lower courts. And so he wants to know, and he thinks it's very vital to professionalize mediation in the lower courts. And he wants to know, why can't international schemes and international ideas be brought in here to professionalize and strengthen our lower courts in mediation?
I think the question of Dhruv Chawla has already been answered by Mr. Chandiok, where he said that we'll have to now train ourselves. We'll have to become more professionals. And if you are drawing up a settlement agreement which is like a decree of a court, then it is the responsibility of the mediator to train himself and be sure that what he's drafting is like a judgment. So in that sense, we'll have to train the mediators. The responsibility of, say, Madhyam and other organizations like this is increasing now. Take into your fold your mediators, train them. Because now the mediators will have to realize that if we have to go do online mediation, then for the mediation movement to be successful, we have to empower ourselves. We have been taking it very lightly, but now let's take a situation where there are no courts available at all, and you have to resolve the disputes only through mediation. So your mediation system has to be perfect, starting from the conduct of mediation, to making mediation available to public, and then drawing up an agreement and enforcement of that agreement has to be all streamlined and in a professional manner. And I'm very certain that I have had training abroad. Justice Sikri is there. There are others. My Justice Sikri, in fact, is my teacher. One of my first teachers in law who brought me to this level. And let me tell you, we are no less in terms of our standards than international standards. So we have all these standards available. Some of our trainers go abroad and train people, leave alone bringing them here. So when we have that kind of a resource over here, let's empower ourselves. Now this is the time, a right time for all the lawyers and all the mediators who are there, because unfortunately, they're not so busy as they should be. So they have time at their hands. So train yourself, empower yourselves technologically and academically both, and reach to the public. And let each lawyer now take up the responsibility of reaching down to the poor. And let me tell you, every worker today, every poor man does have a mobile phone. So, and sometimes, we've seen these so-called TikTok videos.
Yeah, yes.
Being made by them. And we are seeing them. So it's not that it's only now the elite who has it. Yes. They are making videos and circulating it. So why can't we do a reverse reach? Let's reach out to them with our videos of mediation, maybe draw up a process of mediation, have a skit play over an online mediation, so that they feel it's so simple. I think we can all reach them.
That's a fantastic idea, sir. I mean, really, the more I'm thinking of it, to reach out to the rural populations, as rightly asked, all it would take is the kind of video you're suggesting. We just have an awareness video, reach out to them, tell them where they can get in touch and how they can really use technology. Thank you very much, sir.
Sir, looking at the time, Mr. Chandiok, last question to you. The two things. One, Megan has said that for purposes of foolproof, you have said that there should be a foolproof settlement agreement. He says, should not there be also specific law on mediation for purpose of effective enforcement? And second, Mini Srivastav from Amity Law School says, can Madhyam organize an e-training program on online mediation and other ADRs?
Let me answer both the questions. A, that with respect to training part, Madhyam is probably by the end of this month will announce you when we are going to have the online training program. Madhyam is already looking at an international training program now, because I think we need to bring international disputes to this country now. We must all put our hands together to ensure that India becomes the hub. Why should only be left to Singapore or to some other countries? We should all try to bring all international mediation disputes to be here after the Singapore Convention has been signed by the government. On the question of law, I think my Lord Justice Sikri had in one of the last judgments his Lordship pronounced in the Supreme Court said the need for a mediation law is there. His Lordship reiterated that situation today. I'm sure the government is taking note of it. I'm sure the Supreme Court is taking note of it with the MCPC committee headed by Justice Nariman, Justice Kaul, and Justice Indu Malhotra. Justice Kaul was one of the persons along with Justice Sikri who actually started the mediation process in Delhi. The law is imperative, and therefore the question that was put to Justice Sikri and his Lordship answered that keeping in view the provisions of Article 123 with 253, it is possible for the President to promulgate an ordinance. We are expecting that we should be able to bring, because Parliament may not be able to meet soon. So hope and expect the government creates the infrastructure, the government comes out with a mediation law, both for domestic, international. And international also there are two positions. One is which are commercial disputes covered by your Singapore Convention. There could be other disputes like matrimonial or family disputes, properties, holding company and a subsidiary company having some dispute over property, etc., which may also be a subject matter of a dispute. Therefore, we are looking at making it, a time has come when mediation must be made mandatory. I think there is some where some people feel that it is a voluntary process. Then how can you make it mandatory? Mandatory does not mean the voluntary process goes in. I can always opt out. That opt-in must stop, I think, to borrow the words of Justice Kaul in the last webinar, that opt-in must stop, opt-out at any given point of time. But therefore, if you can make this mandatory, that before we knock at the court of the court or a tribunal or an authority, we must sit down to negotiate or sit down with a neutral party to resolve our disputes. Mediation has taken leaps and bounds has come up. The statute, in fact, Section 74 of the Consumer Forum Act has just been notified yesterday itself, which talks of mediation. So therefore, we are looking at this, we are looking at training. We will make an endeavor to reach out to our young mediators, our old mediators, and people who want to mediate, to make it as a career. We'll provide training program. We are in fact looking at the act must also come, not only to regulate the mediators, but also to regulate the service providers, also regulate the institutions which will provide, like if Terry was to tomorrow take over advanced studies as an advanced study on mediation, then that should also be a regulated situation. It must provide for a syllabus. We are not looking at anything else going to any other position. It must go to one authority who should have the liberty, right to design how a mediation process will take place. His Lordship has already, the Sikri said, we brought that arbitration council, that institute at Vasant Vihar, but nothing has happened on that. But we don't want an act to come and not to be implemented. We hope the government brings an act, but we on our part will be ready. We expect the act to be there and therefore start our training program soon, international and domestic both, because time has come when we must bring in not only foreign investment, but bring foreign disputes in this country. And therefore, looking at that, Madhyam is only taking steps. I can assure you, you will soon hear from Madhyam in this regard.
JP, we have permission for one short question for Mr. Sri Prakash.
Yeah, please go ahead, Sadhna.
Mr. Sri Prakash, there are a couple of comments and questions. One is from Ma'am Jaya Vasudevan, who says that what could be the scope of mediation in the PPP projects for railways in the coming days of privatization? And the other one comes from Shireen, who says, can the railways not appoint a senior committee which is authorized to discuss and take a decision about cases for mediation? This is one of the things we have always wondered, why the government can't come up with a scheme, as you rightly said, they're reluctant, why they can't come up with a scheme at different levels and form different committees to give permission for the, especially the financial aspects of settling a matter.
Thanks, Sadhna. In fact, the second question I will take first, which just to say briefly that in each railway, there is a chief administrative officer in charge of the projects, and the buck stops at him. He has got the vast powers to settle any matter, whatever it could be in the execution of the projects. And almost all the matters are settled at his level. And beyond that, there is also administrative head, the general manager. So this he can come to general manager also. But my experience has been that almost all the cases are settled at his level, and then normally they don't go to general manager at all. Now, in few cases, yes, if there is some administrative approval is needed, then they go to general manager. Now, the problem is not with the day-to-day problems, the problem comes, like say, for example, in the EPC contract. Now, there is a design and build, where you say that, okay, the contractor would also design, and then of course the design would be approved by the railways, and then after that he would go and implement it. Now, suppose a design which is has been done by the contractor comes to the railways or any organization, even DMRC is having the EPC contract, and it is approved also. But again, there will be some kind of, because it is technical matters, there could be some misunderstanding between these two, I would say the contractor as well as the executing agency. Now, which that can be resolved, cannot be resolved easily. So that mediation, yes, mediation can be done, and then because you see that, as I have said earlier also, that nobody wants to stop the work. Everybody wants to continue the work, and whatever the question be. And the risks are being taken every day, that is okay. That is all in the that what we call it in the profession. So that and I don't think that so this, I mean, finally all the buck stops at the general manager. So then it can come to general manager, and then he can take a call, that he can decide it, because the buck stops at him, that he is the only person who is administrative head of the railway. Now the question of the public-private participation. So this is very large question, that since 2006 the railways have been wanting to have some private participation in infrastructure creation. And there has been a few successes, but normally it has not, because there is a basic structural defect in the railways. Railway is also the government, so it is some kind of a executing authority, as well as the operating authority, as well as the policy making authority. So this, that if a person, a private the participant, our private entrepreneur, if he has a problem, then finally he has to come to the government, and government is nothing but the railway board itself, So that becomes, some kind of the situation where it is just not possible, because he is not, the private entrepreneur is not able to generate confidence in himself that he would get justice from the railways. So we need a real regulator there. So if we want to succeed the private participation in the infrastructure creation in the railways, then we need a regulator. And a number of attempts have been made for having the regulator, and different mechanism have been also suggested. But but I think this, because in the Indian Railways Act, you have to go and amend it to have a regulator, and for that the Minister of Railways will have to go to the Parliament with a amendment of the Railway Act. So that, I think that is necessary, and unless you have a real regulator, personally I don't feel that private investors would be willing to invest in a large way. in a large way would not be willing to come to the railways. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a lot of questions still, but I'm not so sure if we have the time for them.
Yeah, we can answer them privately, otherwise later.
Yeah.
I'll ask the panelists. Thank you for everyone. Thank you, panelists, for such an illuminating, discussion that we've had. We go back to Vidhi.
Thank you so much. Thank you, JP sir. Thank you, Sadhna ma'am, for a wonderful facilitation of the session. It was indeed a very enlightening session. The discussion, besides flagging challenges, offered sustainable solutions to the process of mediation. I'm sure our participants joining through various platforms would have immensely benefited from today's discourse. I now request Ms. Neelam Rathod, advocate and mediator, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Vidhi. Honorable Justice C.K., Justice Sachdeva, respected Mr. Chandyok and Mr. Sri Prakash. They say no duty is more urgent than returning thanks. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be asked to do this present duty of proposing a vote of thanks for the panel discussion today on behalf of Madhyam. My sincere thanks to Professor Manipadam Datta for his introductory remarks and a warm welcome. It set the right tone for the ensuing discussions. Thank you, Sadhna, for introducing the esteemed panelists. Justice Sikri highlighted the significance of mediation as a better way of resolving disputes, of doing justice. His emphasis on the importance of Singapore Convention and the need for an imminent and comprehensive mediation law in India is well taken. Justice Sachdeva expanded, knowing that he's the e-judge and his finished with technology, he expanded on the benefits of technology in resolving disputes and on encouraging mediation by the lawyers in the present day scenario, especially in respect of the civil disputes. He made interesting points on the confidentiality and the execution of mediation agreements even on virtual platforms. He sounded caution on the use of digital signatures, which is well taken. And sir, we hope, taking your suggestion for submission of not written submissions but on through video will be well taken by the courts, especially the TikTok ones. Mr. Chandyok highlighted the importance of domain knowledge, settlement drafting, authenticity of email of the parties. Good settlement writing, which he has always emphasized, is essential for execution of the settlement agreements. It makes the task easier, especially if it is written like a decree. His further emphasis on need for augmenting the infrastructure, protection of mediators acting in good faith, and increasing professionalism in mediation, the constant training, is also well taken. Mr. Sri Prakash was very forthright in highlighting the difficulties being faced in government departments in taking resort to mediation. We are all aware of that, and he rightly emphasized the need to switch over to mediation as against arbitration. My special thanks to Terry Sass for collaborating with Madhyam and extending all support and cooperation for making this panel discussion a success. Now coming to the moderators. Thank you, Sadhna and JP. Your questions were wide and encompassing, very thought-provoking, and the response that they elicited from the panelists, they instigated the curiosity even more and gave us a lot of food for thought. We were blessed with your presence, participants. Your involvement and active participation is reflected in the questions that you put to the panelists. My thanks to Sumit for the well-delivered introduction of Madhyam. I will also thank the virtual platform for giving us the opportunity to engage in these brainstorming sessions. Thank you to Vidhi, Jyoti and Sarika for all the support that they extended for making this panel discussion a success. Had it been a normal seminar, I would have said, the dinner is late, please join us for dinner. But we can't do it here. So till our next program, as Mr. Chandioke said, which is going to be soon, thank you all once again.
Thank you.
Over to you, Vidhi.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, my lord. Thank you, Vidhi. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir,
Have
for
a great
joining.
weekend.